Good morning, I'm Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation Magazine and AsianAviation.com. Welcome to the latest In Conversation, sponsored by Metrojet of Hong Kong. Today we're very happy to be in conversation with Kerry Mok. He's the new president and CEO of Singapore's ground handler and caterer SATS. Kerry, welcome to In Conversation. Thanks for joining me. Good
morning, Matt. Pleased to be here today.
Good to see you. First of all, congratulations on the new post. I think you officially took over from your predecessor, Alex Hungate, on the 15th. How's it feel to be in the top spot, and what's on the agenda?
Well, thanks, Matt. Look, it's been it's been 3.5 years since I joined SATS, and pretty much been part of Alex's management team. So all the strategies we put in place is something that I've been pretty much part of, particularly on the food side. Look, we have a very clear strategy in place, and right now what I'm looking to focus on is actually a lot more, driving more sustainable business strategy that's focused on a couple of things. One is to make Singapore really a strong global hub for ourselves. And being a market leader here, we need to continue to invest in innovation to lead the growth. And that's where we're putting a lot of effort in digitalizing our business operations, coming up with new innovation initiatives such as the innovation hub that we have here in Singapore that's tied to UK. And then, of course, using what we have here in Singapore, we actually want to grow outside of Singapore. And clearly, we have a very clear view on where we're going to go. You'll see that in the food side, we have identified a few key countries that we want to be big in. And likewise, we continue to invest a lot in our cargo business, which has been doing very, very well. And we are going to continue to invest in that and expand that, particularly in some of the adjacent business around e-commerce and cold chain logistics.
We were able to talk to Alex before he left, and he was talking about how SATS was adapting after COVID basically shut down aviation, especially Singapore aviation, because there's no domestic market here. And you just mentioned, we'll follow up on cargo, that cargo is a bright spot, food is a bright spot. We'll get to food in a minute. We got lots of questions on that. Borders are starting to reopen a little bit. We've got vaccinated travel lanes, although they're not that convenient because my wife just flew back from France and she had to test for 7 days in a row, which was kind of ridiculous, I think, if you're vaccinated and you did a PCR test and all that. Anyway, that's a different story. Are you seeing the aviation business pick up with borders reopening? I saw Singapore Airlines just landed in Siem Reap yesterday or the day before with the first international flight. Do things look like they're picking up for the aviation side?
Well, let me just touch on first. I just want to cover the thing on cargo. Look, it has been a bright spot for us, and I think it's safe to say most airlines, if they have a cargo arm, it's been helping prop them up as well. So we are obviously benefiting from the supply chain disruption, and cargo has been doing very well. If you look at the cargo stats, right, it's gone up quite a fair bit. I think globally it's about over 9%. In Asia, it's about almost 8% as well in terms of cargo ton per kilometer. And for us, we want to continue to be a big player in that, using our network to drive that growth. Now, for passenger travel, I think, look, it is something that we are cautiously optimistic. Look, the VTL has been a welcome relief to many of us here in the airport community, but it remains uncertain. I think we are constantly monitoring about Omicron. I mean, yesterday we just read that Omicron virus is just spreading quite exponentially faster than Delta variant. So we are concerned about how this can affect the future travel. It may shake people's confidence, but I think as long as we maintain that connectivity and maintain that connection with the rest of the airport, obviously through the VTL, however the volume is, we are optimistic that it will come back, right? And we are working very closely with our airline customers as well as the community to institute procedures that will bring confidence to travelers. And I think that's something that's very important. We've learned quite a fair bit from the Delta variant. We are practicing a lot of what we've learned in how we're going to deal with the Omicron variant. And again, I think it's incumbent upon us to give passenger the confidence about travel. And I think once we have that confidence and we're able to control the growth of the Omicron spread, then I think we should see sunny skies in the future. But we are cautiously optimistic, and we remain concerned about how it can affect things because it's so fluid as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, the vaccinated travel, you basically, Singapore announced the VTLs, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about Omicron and trying to figure out how to pronounce it as well. And it is frustrating for the industry because, I was talking to someone the other day, and, I had to explain to them saying, look, the problem is there's no way to plan. Before you could say, okay, we need X amount of capacity on this route at this time of the year, but all of those spreadsheets they're out the window because you can't plan for it. If you look at the Omicron came out, Japan shut its borders, Israel shut its borders. There's no way to plan for that, so it's really hard on the industry. Let's move on for a little bit. We got the limited amount of time. I know you're very busy. Let's talk about food. Obviously, one of my favorite things. I like to cook. SATS, big, huge food operation, not just in aviation, catering, other areas. We read the other day you opened a big central kitchen complex in India. You're doing things here in Singapore with the local hawker food markets. Give us sort of the big picture about what's happening, what your plans are, both aviation food and non-aviation food.
Let me explain the food strategy a little bit for you. Look, we are looking at more end-to-end value chain. When we look at all the capabilities that we have within SATS in the past, we're actually playing all the way from upfield in sourcing, strategic sourcing, all the way down to working with retailers and supplying B2C stuff in the retail chains and food services as well. So what we've done really in our strategy is to tie this a little tighter as well, and we want to use scale to actually drive our business growth in food. I mean, in food, scale is very important as well. And when we have access to channels like aviation, institutional catering, even retail and food service, we are in a position to use scale to do that. But let me explain a bit more about how we intend to leverage on our core skills. We are very good in our culinary skills. We are also good in product development and also food technology. And of course, being an aviation caterer, we are very strong in our QA aspect as well. I think stronger than any other sectors I've seen in the food business. So by tying all that together, including using supply chain, we are looking to try and use scale to drive products that we can source upstream, process them, cook them, value add them, and then use our different channels to actually serve all our consumers, whether is it airline or is it retail or is it food service restaurants, and really drive also brand as well. We believe branded product is going to be important going forward, and we do want to work with local brands, and the local brands doesn't have to be only Singapore. We are looking at brands from other countries that we operate in. We want to help these brands go international as well, and we want to leverage our production skill and culinary know-how to help them. Now, moving from I'll give you an example, moving from a hawker stall here in Singapore, if you want to serve aviation customers, you want to serve retail customers, you have to have the food technology and know-how to actually do it in a big batch and in a safe quality manner as well. And those, I think most SMEs will struggle to have the know-how. So we want to leverage on that, and we want to help these SMEs actually grow. It is a win-win situation. It's not one where SATS is only going to benefit. We will benefit obviously from their brands. They will benefit from our skill and know-how. And with that, hopefully we can help them internationalize their brands and product. And I think together we can then distribute our products across multiple countries. We do want to bring the authentic food into the different countries. I mean, travel is hard right now. If we can bring some of Singapore famous chicken rice around the world to some of our consumers who probably would like to come to Singapore but can't make it, that will be a welcome thing. Likewise, if we're able to bring good products here from Japan or Korea into Singapore, again, travel is difficult, that hopefully can bring some kind of relief and excitement to the local communities that we operate in. I think for us, this is really part of our vision of really feeding and connecting communities, and we really want to use that capability to make that a reality for many of our consumers that we work with.
You mentioned chicken rice. I smile because it's my son's favorite meal. He could eat that every day. Actually, he's having that for lunch today, actually, since he's on break from school. Quick question. I mean, again, I mentioned India earlier. You've got a big central kitchen that you opened up there the other day. Is India a key country for you? What's the sort of the geography that you're looking to really, what's first on the agenda? Which countries are first on the agenda for this?
We have a tiered production approach. So in places like, let me explain. So we just, besides India, we have also invested in China Central Kitchen as well. That's in Tianjin. And we have also recently acquired a food production factory in Thailand. So together with Thailand, China, India, these are going to be a large-scale production base that's going to be utilized by all our different channels, right? Where we can actually utilize their skill and efficiency to help us grow. Definitely in places like China, India, these are all large economy where there are many people living in there. So we do want to have those kitchens set up to really focus on the local taste. For Thailand, it's more of a kitchen of the world. Thailand has got a lot of advantages because there are a lot of countries that's really recognized Thailand as a food export country. So having that operation in there gives us that skill to support both our aviation and non-aviation business. I mean, you just think of it, if I'm able to produce something out of Thailand in a very consistent manner, I can use supply chain to feed that into multiple countries. Actually, beyond Asia as well, we can even supply some of these items into Europe as well, and parts of Americas as well. So this is something that is crucial to our strategy. And of course, in a local side, where we focus a lot more on some of the freshly cooked item, that unfortunately has to be more localized. And therefore, that fits in with our Feed and Connect communities because we use scale for large location where we can do global supply. And then for the local side, we focus on very unique, authentic taste that requires different ingredients or different skill set to feed the local communities.
Let's stay on food. Obviously, it's one of my favorite topics. SATS has been talking about plant-based food for a while. I've actually started eating plant-based hamburgers. I know it's a big growth area. I've got a friend who started a company called Karana that does sort of plant-based foods. My question is, we live in Asia where the pork is king. I love my bacon, and my doctor doesn't, but I do. Is it a hard sell for plant-based foods here in Asia when people are so used to eating a lot of pork and things like that?
No, it's a very interesting thing, and maybe let me just say that alternate protein is a big strategic focus area for us. In Singapore, we are the largest frozen poultry importer into Singapore. So we already have a well-established supply chain to supply frozen meat into several channels, and we have about 1,000 customers here in Singapore alone. So what we have done over the last few years has been to work very closely with Temasek and some of the startups to actually bring some of this alternate protein into the market. Now we're doing it in two different ways, right? One is obviously leveraging on the supply chain that we have, because it's extremely expensive if you have to distribute alternate protein using your own supply chain where you have no scale. That's going to add cost to your supply chain. But if we're able to utilize what we already have, and this is an add-on sale to existing consumer, then I think it makes it more efficient, and I think we're well placed to do that. Secondly, which is a more important aspect, is the whole culinary aspect of it. Most people do not know how to handle raw alternate protein. And if you have a bad experience in trying to cook alternate protein yourself, that may just turn you off. And most people are actually quite happy to try new things. And what we found is a lot of the young consumers are prepared to try alternate protein. Many of them are worried about sustainable food production and all that, so they are willing to try. But it's the experience that they are looking to have, and if it's good, then they'll continue to try and taste a different alternate protein. So we've been working with a lot of startups, alternate protein like brands like Impossible, V2, Fable, Growthwell. What we work with them is we come out with recipes and finished products. Because if the consumer is able to taste the finished product, and frankly, they can't tell the difference, that's what matters, right? We don't really have to tell them, hey, this is actually made of mushroom, this is made of soybean. Actually, if the product tastes good, then likelihood of them continue to take alternate protein is going to be there. So we are very, very focused in working with our partners to create delicious product. And with that helps to improve the take-up rate, adoption rate. We are very clear that it's not going to replace meat definitely for a long time, but we want to increase adoption rate. Now, we have also created some hybrid products where it is not all alternate protein. We mix it up with actual protein and to increase the enhancement of the taste profile. And that has, we've done a few of such events recently, and the feedback from consumers has been wonderful because they finally was able to taste a product that they feel that it gives them the original taste compared to, actual protein. So because of that, they're willing to try it and have more. And I think for us, it's about increasing adoption rate. Every percentage point we can convert from actual meat into alternate protein can only help the industry. And I think it will place alternate protein in a much better place in the future. So I think it's going to take some time, but we want to do our part to help enhance this business going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me that when I tried my first plant burger, I was really surprised. It was actually pretty good, and I still eat them. And I tell my doctor it counts as eating a salad since it's made from plants, so it's not real meat. Kerry, we need to take a quick break here to hear from our sponsor, Metrojet of Hong Kong. We'll be right back after this.
We're going to have the crown jewels of Asia, and I promise you we're going to have the nicest and busiest business aviation hangar in the region.
And we're back. We're speaking with Kerry Mok, the new CEO of SATS here in Singapore. Kerry, you've been working, we're going to get off food for a minute a little bit, but you've been working in supply chain management for a long time. You can't pick up a newspaper or you can't look at a website without hearing about supply chain problems these days. The ports are backed up. You've got ships, by the dozen parked outside of Long Beach and Singapore and Hong Kong. Is this all related to COVID? First question. And then secondly, we've all heard about just-in-time supply chains. So you don't have to store a lot of parts or store a lot of product in a warehouse. It arrives, you process it, you manufacture your end product or whatever. Is that going to change here in Asia? And have you been affected by supply chain issues as well? It's kind of a long question, but...
Yeah. Well, let me just tackle the first thing first on supply chain in general for SATS. Look, we pre-COVID we have been actually investing quite a fair bit on supply chain. In fact, I was specifically brought in to improve our supply chain capability. In the last 3 years, we've invested a lot in digital supply chain systems, and that's actually helped us tremendously in managing this COVID situation. Now, with respect to how supply chain is all backed up and all that, clearly it's a new norm, right? I think when the COVID first happened, there was a shift in consumer behavior, and a lot of things were disrupted. People couldn't go to work, factories were shut, you can find drivers, and it just kind of snowballed into the situation we are in today, which choked up the whole ocean freight supply chain. And in fact, the rates for ocean freight rates continues to be high, and in fact, the liners are upping the rates because there's been disruption, and they are just pricing in the disruption into the rates for the consumer. So this we believe will carry on, and I think because of that, air freight continues to be, air cargo, air freight continues to be a bright spot for us. And I think that's going to continue for a while. The differential in terms of rates between ocean and air used to be about 12 times, right? 12 times for air being more expensive than ocean. Now it's about 3 to 4 times. So, and because of that, if you want certainty in your delivery, then you really got to consider air freight as a means to achieving your service level. This, I believe, most companies will now have to relook at their own supply chain. They will have to readjust as to how they operate in this new reality where things are uncertain. So it's about resilient supply chain is what they're looking for. And for us, on the food side, how has that impacted us? Frankly, it's given us a impetus to actually increase our sourcing from different locations. We used to source from a few key countries in the past, but with this COVID, we have expanded our sourcing to multiple countries. And that's one way of addressing the resiliency in our supply chain. We were able to continue to bring products into Singapore, and that's helped us tremendously. And because of the scale that we have, that's helped us to mitigate some of the cost increases that you see across the board. Now, having said that, inflation is a big challenge, and we are concerned about how this inflation will continue to have an impact on our business going forward. But we are taking mitigating actions to actually address that. So I think that depends on how you view things, but we do see it as an opportunity, and we have been benefiting from the increasing number of sources that we have established during this COVID period.
Let me ask you. You mentioned earlier about working with SMEs and working with lots of different companies. Is that part of your venture arm, Food Fix? Is that where that's coming from? And tell us a little bit about Food Fix and sort of what the strategy is. And do you think that's something that could be spun off someday?
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll go slightly in a broader way. So Food Fix and all that is part of our venturing initiative. So when we started about maybe 2 years plus, we decided to start a corporate venture arm to look at new business model, leveraging on our skills and our know-how to drive adjacency in different growth markets that we are looking at. So we came out together with EDB. We came out of a corporate venturing initiative, and we did several sprints. And one of the sprints we did was obviously for alternate protein, which led into us focusing a large part on alternate protein. We also did a few sprints around food brand accelerator. The sprint was actually done in China and Shanghai, and with that learning and understanding, we then brought it back, and that's how Food Fix was born. And Food Fix really is a brand accelerator where we want to help companies accelerate and grow their brand across multiple channels. And it's about really understanding what the SME are looking for, and we're looking for like-minded SMEs who are looking for growth, and they actually have the ambition to grow beyond that 1 or 2 stalls that they have. So this is an important part of it, and really what we want to do is help these people grow, and this becomes a brand accelerator unit that will be separate from the food business in future. Now, whether that can be spun off into different companies and all that, it really depends on our implementation success. If this takes off and we're able to get the kind of brands and spread that we want, there is that potential that this can be an independent unit away from SATS itself. But it remains to be seen. Right now, what we really want to do is just focus on bringing the brands on board and helping them be successful, and show that actually working with SATS gives them the opportunity to grow beyond their immediate areas. And I think once we get success, and like most SMEs, they like to see that SATS can help them, and I think it generates more confidence, and hopefully we have more SMEs willing to work with us in future. I think that for us it's a more important mark than whether into a different venture and all that.
Let's switch gears for a minute. Excuse me. I talked about this with your predecessor, but sustainability is a big area that everyone around the world, not just in aviation, but around the world is talking about now, which is a good thing. I think aviation gets a bad rap because the ocean shipping industry uses bunker fuel, which is about the worst kind of fuel you can use. But SATS has got a big sustainability program, again, alternate protein, things like that. You're working on sustainable food packaging. Give us an idea of the commitment SATS has made to sustainability.
Yeah. Look, we are very clear on a few things, right? We definitely want to reduce our carbon intensity, and that's this year. In fact, we have included that into our management incentive scheme, which is important, right? But what we want to do is first a few things. We want to reduce our wastage, food wastage. We want to actually reduce that by half by 2030. That is a important mark that we have. To reduce food wastage, there's a few things we need to do. We need to invest in the right food technology to extend shelf life, that's one. But we also want to use the good packaging to actually help to reduce the waste of food going forward as well. So that's something that we're very focused on. The second part is around the assets that we have. I think it's great that we have a chance to renew our assets. We're moving a lot to electrification of our equipment. And this is something that, in fact, in Singapore, about almost a third of our fleet ground support equipment has been electrified. And we are actually working with the airport community there to look at charging points and all that, because infrastructure is going to be critical. So whilst I can move into electric vehicles and all that, we need the infrastructure to catch up so that we can have a efficient operations in there. And of course, we also want to ensure that we can bring more such technologies across the group, right? So it's not just Singapore. And in fact, our business in China do have a lot of initiative around electrification of their fleet. So we are learning from each other. And with that, we hope to share that across the network that we have and hopefully bring to bear those technologies in a much more efficient manner. But I think, hopefully it makes business sense to do that quicker as well. So that's a very important part of our strategy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I give the industry credit when I can for it, but I think also this, basically the industry has said, okay, we'll be carbon neutral by 2050. I think that's waiting way too long. I mean, can the industry move faster?
Look, I think, the few things, right? I mean, firstly, in the aviation side, it's a bit tough. And one of the things that most airlines are focusing on is on the fuel itself, right? Sustainable aviation fuel is something that they're all very focused on. And I think, to be net zero, you can't just rely on the fuel. I think carbon offset is going to be something that we have to look into. But the transparency of the carbon offset system is something that we need to work on and improve upon. But, I think as a largest ground handler here in Asia, we are very focused on the carbon intensity reduction as a first step. Because if you can halve that by 2030, that is going to put us in a much better position. And going forward, I do think technology is going to play an important part in how we can accelerate in achieving that net zero by before even 2050. So we will continue to work with institutes of high learnings and authorities as well to try and trial some of these newer technologies and learn from it. Again, like I said, the target is just one target we set for ourselves. But the faster we can pick up some of this technology, we will be very interested in rolling out those technologies so that we can actually fast track our target achievement. But it's something that we were to work with multiple community stakeholders to make this a reality.
Kerry, we got to call it quits here in just a minute. Let me ask my last question. I always try to end these shows on a bright note. You just started as CEO and president. Tell us kind of what you're looking forward to as the new top guy at SATS, and what do you really hope to accomplish there, other than increasing shareholder value and all that? But what do you really hope to accomplish as CEO?
Look, firstly, I feel it's a privileged position to be in, and to be able to lead SATS is something that a lot of people would love to in this position. Look, I've been given this privilege, so one of the things that I would like to establish is very, very clear beyond shareholder value and all that. One is the people and culture aspect. I think it's important that we bring people along the journey, and at the same time, I want to make people feel proud working for SATS, and that we have the chance to make a difference to people's lives. Now, whether is it you're a traveler, on the airplane, or you're a consumer in a supermarket, or you're an institutional consumer that we serve our food onto, everyone in the company along the chain, from the guy from the most junior to the guys from the most senior, plays a part in delivering that service. We want to make that connection very, very strong for our people. And I think if we can make that connection, people will feel proud to work for SATS. And we want that sense of belonging and sense of pride to be extended not just in Singapore alone, but to all the countries that we operate in, so that they can see that they are serving a purpose of feeding and connecting the communities that they work in. So the people culture aspect is very critical. Second aspect is to establish a strong team. And this is where, throughout my career, I've always, pride myself in establishing strong teams that works for me. But at the same time, it's one where the team is very strong, independent, that's able to drive the business strategy together with the management team going forward. So this is something that will be a big focus for me as we try to bring more talents on board the SATS team. And last but not the least, really is to work with key customers and partners. And I think we cannot ignore that the world has changed, and how do we collaborate with our partners and customers is going to be very critical for our success. And we do want to find like-minded customers and partners to actually grow in a win-win situation. And if I can do all three of that, then I would have probably leave the company a much better place than when I first inherit. And it's something that is very strong value that I adhere to. Stewardship is what I believe in, and I would like to leave this place a much better place than I first inherited. So that's what I'm going to do.
Great. Kerry Mok, CEO of SATS, thanks for joining me in conversation.
Thank you, man.